There is a man who lends you money and hopes you never pay it back. Not because he's careless, because that is the entire business. The old country loan shark wanted his money back with a little something on top. The new one wants you paying forever, and he built an app so friendly you'll tap the button yourself. You already have it on your phone. You might use it this week. So let's talk about the oldest hustle in the neighborhood and how it got a software update. Start with a word the old crews used. The VIG, short for vigorish. It's the cut the lender takes just for the privilege of lending to you. The interest, the fee, the little something on top of the money you actually walked away with. Borrow 100, owe 120 by Friday. That extra 20 is the VIG. Simple, brutal, honest, in its own ugly way, because everyone at the table knew the number. You could look the man in the eye and see exactly what he was taking. Now here is the thing nobody tells you. The modern version charges more. A lot more. And it does it with a smile. Let's decode one term before we go further, because the whole trick hides inside it. APR. It stands for annual percentage rate. That sounds like homework, so here's what it really means. It's just the price of borrowing money, measured over a full year, so you can compare one lender to another the way you'd compare the price per pound of two steaks. A credit card might charge you 20 or 30% APR. A car loan, maybe 7. A mortgage, less. Hold that range in your head. 20, 30% is already considered expensive money. Because the friendly storefront on the corner, the one with the neon sign that says cash now, no credit check, no problem, charges an average APR of around 400%. That is not a typo. Alex Horowitz, a senior researcher at the Pew Charitable Trusts, has spent years taking these products apart, and the numbers his team found should make you sit up. The typical Payday borrower takes out around $375. By the time they finally climb out, they've paid roughly $520 in fees. Read that again slowly. The fees cost more than the loan. You borrowed $375 and you paid $520 just to rent it. And here's the part that should stop you cold. You'd assume this is emergency money. The flat tire at midnight. The busted furnace in January. The once-in-a-blue-moon disaster nobody could plan for. It isn't. Pew found that roughly 7 in 10 of these loans go toward regular, recurring bills. Rent. Groceries. The electric bill. People aren't borrowing to survive a shock. They're borrowing to survive an ordinary Tuesday, and then borrowing again to survive the next one. That's not a rescue. That's a treadmill with a fee at every step. So let's name what this actually is, because it isn't lending. It's a protection racket. Think about what an old protection racket really was. A man walks into your shop every week. Nice shop, he says. Real nice. Be a shame if something happened to it. So you pay him. Not for anything he gives you. You pay him to make a problem go away, a problem he invented. And the genius of it, the truly evil genius, was that the payment never ended. You never bought your way out. You just rented a little piece, 1 week at a time, forever. Now look again at that 400% storefront with that in mind. You borrow to cover the rent. 2 weeks later, the whole thing comes due at once. The loan plus the fee, all of it. But paying it back in full would leave you short on this week's rent, the exact hole you were trying to fill. So you do the only thing you can. You pay just the fee to push the debt down the road. 2 weeks later, same trap. You pay the fee again. And again. The people in the business have a clean little word for this move. The rollover. And there's another word you need, because it's the number that never moves. The principal. That's the original chunk of money you borrowed, the actual loan, before any interest is stacked on. In a payday trap, the principal barely budges. You feed the fee, the meter resets to 0, and the man behind the glass tips his hat. You are paying rent on a debt you will never actually own. Now, there is one number the operator never says out loud when you sign. He'll happily show you the fee. $20, $40, sounds small, sounds fair. The number he buries is what that little fee becomes when you're still paying it 4 months later. And there's a reason he buries it, and it isn't the reason you'd think. Because this whole machine doesn't run on muscle. It runs on a math error. 2 economists proved it. Marion Bertrand of the University of Chicago and Adair Morse of the University of California, Berkeley, ran a now famous experiment inside real payday storefronts. And what they found flips the whole stereotype on its head. The borrowers weren't stupid. They weren't reckless. They simply didn't add it up. People understood a single $40 fee just fine. What they could not picture was that same fee stacking, cycle after cycle after cycle, until it towered over the thing they'd borrowed in the first place. So Bertrand and Morse tried something almost insultingly simple. They just showed people the total. The real dollars, piling up across the months, spelled out in plain sight. And borrowing dropped by about 11%. Not from a lecture, not from a law, just from doing the addition out loud. Sit with that for a second. The entire trap depends on you not finishing the sentence. The shark's real weapon was never the baseball bat. It was your own optimism. And you're not alone in it. Ronald Mann, a law professor at Columbia, surveyed these borrowers directly and found that most of them walked in genuinely convinced they'd pay it off fast, in one shot, no problem. And most of them were wrong. The hope is the hook. They're not selling you money. They're selling you a story about the version of you who pays it back on time. And that version rarely shows up. But here's where it gets worse. Because the old storefront had a problem. It looked like exactly what it was. Neon, bulletproof glass, a line of tired people staring at their shoes. Nobody walks in there feeling good about themselves. So the business did what every successful racket eventually does when it wants to grow. It cleaned up. It changed its clothes. And it moved somewhere you would never flinch. The checkout screen. You know the button. For little words. Pay in 4. Or pay later. No interest, no fees, just 4 easy payments. Split it up. Treat yourself. It's called Buy Now, Pay Later. BNPL, the industry's own initials. Klarna, Affirm, Afterpay. You're buying a $60 pair of sneakers, and a cheerful little box pops up offering to break it into 4 friendly chunks. No shark, no neon, no shame, just a tap, and it's yours. And a lot of the time, honestly, it works out fine. That is exactly what makes it brilliant. The best rackets always look like a favor. But in December of 2025, the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, the federal agency whose whole job is to watch this stuff, published a hard look at the biggest players. And the pattern underneath the friendly design was awfully familiar. Around 1 in 5 of these users had become heavy users, financing more than one purchase a month with it. Most borrowers, over a single year, had several of these little loans running at the same time. And plenty were juggling them across different apps at once. A payment due here on the 5th, another one there on the 12th, a third somewhere else you forgot about entirely. That is not 4 easy payments. That is a dozen tiny sharks, and you've lost count of who you owe on which Friday. Now, to be fair, and this matters, it is not the old 400% bloodbath. The Federal Reserve Bank of Richmond, in a 2026 brief by the economist Zhu Wang, looked at the whole buy now pay later market and found that, for now, it's still fairly small. Around $70 billion, a thin slice of what Americans put on their credit cards. The system is not on fire. But that same brief pointed at the quiet tell. The people leaning hardest on these apps tend to be younger, tend to have thinner credit histories, and tend to already be carrying heavier balances everywhere else. The app isn't the whole debt. It's the newest room added onto a house that was already too crowded. And that is the upgrade the old loan shark could only dream about. He had to find you. The app just waits for you, appearing at the exact half-second your finger hovers over something you can't quite afford. He needed muscle to collect. The app just sends a cheerful notification. He wanted his money back, with the VIG, and then he was done with you. The app would rather you keep 4 small debts breathing forever, because forever is where the real money lives. Remember the VIG? The little something on top? The racket never actually changed. It just got frictionless. It learned your name, your card number, and your weakest moments, and it wrapped the oldest trick in the neighborhood in a soft color scheme designed to feel like a friend doing you a favor. So here's the move, and it costs you nothing. The people who stay out of this trap aren't richer than you, and they aren't smarter than you. They just finish the sentence. They add it up before they tap. They ask the one question the entire machine is engineered to stop you from asking. Not what does this cost me today? What does this cost me by the time I'm finally done paying? If you want to keep thinking like that, like someone who reads the racket instead of falling for it, subscribe and stick around. Because next time, you're going to watch the people running the biggest money game on earth, the stock market itself, run a nearly identical trick on millions of people who are certain they're too clever to fall for it. Because somewhere out there, right now, there is still a man who lends you money and hopes you never pay it back. He isn't in a back room anymore. He isn't behind the glass. He's in your pocket, he's smiling, and he is only ever one friendly tap away.